Tonight we're going to show you something that shouldn't exist. Security footage from St. Mary's Hospital recorded exactly 1 week ago at 3:17 a.m. What you're about to see was discovered by the night security team during their morning review. Pay close attention to the third-floor hallway. The hospital administration tried to explain this away as a technical glitch, but the movement you're seeing is too deliberate to intelligent. Watch the doorway at 0:23. Something peers out, then quickly retreats when it realizes the camera is there. The movement doesn't match any staff member's location that night. What was that? The audio technicians can't explain why the security system picked up that sound. There were no patients on this floor. The hospital had been clearing this wing for renovation. 3 security guards quit their jobs after reviewing this footage. One of them hasn't slept in 5 days. He keeps saying the same thing. What the cameras caught was nothing compared to what was actually there. We've obtained permission to investigate the hospital ourselves to find out what's haunting the abandoned wings of St. Mary's. What we discovered will make you question everything you believe about the boundary between life and death. St. Mary's Hospital stands on the outskirts of town, a looming structure built in 1924 that has seen more than its share of suffering. Once a respected medical facility, it was partially shut down in 2005 following a series of unexplained patient deaths that authorities never fully resolved. According to local newspaper archives, 17 patients died under mysterious circumstances within a 3-month period. All deaths occurred between 3:00 and 4:00 a.m., all in the now abandoned East Wing. The official investigation concluded with a statement about administrative oversights and facility contamination, but staff who work there tell a different story. As we enter through the main lobby, the silence is oppressive. The hospital administration granted us access on the condition that we stay out of active patient areas. But what concerns us more is what might already be here, watching us. If you look carefully at the hallway intersection at 2:15, you'll notice a shadow moving against the wall. This was our first indication that we weren't alone. None of our team members were in that corridor. We've obtained the original building plans, which reveal something strange. The hospital has a restricted basement level that doesn't appear on public records. Former employees whisper about unauthorized experiments conducted there in the 1970s. That's where we're heading next. We've set up our equipment in what used to be room 237, reportedly the most active location in the hospital. According to former nurse testimonies, patients in this room frequently reported seeing someone standing at the foot of their bed during night shift. 3 patients died here within a single month. Our EMF detector is already showing unusual activity. Normal readings in a building like this should register between 0.5 and 1.5 milligauss, but we're getting sporadic spikes of 7.8 to 9.2 with no electrical sources nearby that could explain these fluctuations. As we continued our setup, something unexplainable happened. The heavy wooden door to the bathroom slowly closed by itself. We've checked for air currents, unlevel flooring, and other natural explanations. None apply. What's most disturbing is that the door moves at a consistent speed as if being deliberately pushed. We've analyzed this footage frame by frame. At 4:27, when the footage is enhanced and brightened, you can clearly see what appears to be a humanoid figure standing in the doorway for approximately 3 frames before vanishing. This figure doesn't match any light patterns or dust particles. It has distinct mass and dimension. The temperature in the room dropped from 71 degrees to 58 degrees Fahrenheit within 30 seconds during this occurrence. Our audio equipment captured what sounds like labored breathing, though no one on our team was near the microphone at that time. When we reviewed this footage together, even our most skeptical team member couldn't explain what we'd captured. Whatever is haunting St. Mary's Hospital wanted us to know it was there, watching us, and this was just the beginning of our evidence. To better understand what we're dealing with, we spoke with Margaret Wilson, who worked as a night nurse at St. Mary's for 27 years before the East Wing closure. What she told us changed our entire perspective on this investigation. There were nights when all the patients on the third floor would have the same nightmare simultaneously, she explained. They would describe seeing a tall, thin doctor checking their charts at the foot of their beds, but no doctor was scheduled for rounds at that hour. Hospital records from the 1960s reveal a disturbing pattern. Patients in isolation rooms somehow exhibited identical symptoms at the same time, despite having different diagnoses and no contact with each other. Several drew the same unusual symbol in their journals without any explanation of its meaning. In 1972, a psychiatric patient committed suicide by jumping from the roof. According to his final journal entry, he claimed to be escaping the doctor who comes at night. Most disturbing was his description of this doctor. His face isn't right. It shifts when he thinks I'm not looking. This suicide happened at exactly 3:17 and the same time our security footage was recorded. The administration demolished the psychiatric ward shortly after, converting it to storage space. But during renovation in 1998, workers discovered a sealed room containing outdated medical equipment and patient files that were supposed to have been destroyed. Margaret shared one final detail that chilled. During night shifts, we all felt like we were being watched. Equipment would move between rounds. Patient call buttons would activate from empty rooms. Whatever is in that hospital, it's been there for decades, watching, waiting. And it's not just one spirit, it feels like many trapped souls under the control of something darker. As we made our way to the surgical wing on the second floor, our equipment was functioning normally. This area was reportedly where surgeons claimed to hear whispers giving them incorrect patient information during procedures. Multiple surgeries resulted in patient deaths after doctors reported hearing these voices. The moment we crossed the threshold into the main operating theater, something inexplicable happened. All 6 of our fully charged batteries drained simultaneously. Our thermal camera, EMF detector, digital recorder, and 2 handheld cameras all powered down within 3 seconds of each other. The statistical probability of this occurring naturally is virtually 0. Even more disturbing was the sudden temperature drop. Our digital thermometer registered a plunge from 68 degrees to 46 degrees Fahrenheit in less than 10 seconds. This defies the basic laws of thermodynamics for an enclosed space of this size. The static camera we had mounted in the corner captured something while we were distracted by our failing equipment. A steel surgical tray table moved approximately 8 inches across the floor with no one near it. We've examined this footage extensively, ruling out vibrations or unlevel flooring. The movement is deliberate and happens in small, intermittent shifts, as if being pushed by an unseen hand. If you listen carefully at 8:45, there's a distinct whisper captured in the static. With headphones, you can clearly hear the words, "Not supposed to be here." None of our team members were speaking at that moment. Audio analysis confirms the voice doesn't match any team member's vocal patterns. Most disturbing of all, when our camera operator turned toward the large wall mirror, the reflection showed a dark figure standing directly behind him, yet nothing was visible in the room itself. This type of visual anomaly defies explanation by conventional science. After recovering from our experiences in the surgical wing, we decided to conduct an EVP session in what was once the hospital morgue. This cold, sterile room in the basement would have been the final destination for those who died under mysterious circumstances over the hospital's long history. We arranged our equipment in a circle, utilizing a specialized audio recorder designed to capture electronic voice phenomena, sounds, and voices that exist outside the range of normal human hearing. The session began quietly, with standard questions receiving no response. Then at precisely 11:17 p.m., we asked, "Who is still here in this hospital?" The response we captured sends chills down our spines even now. A clear, articulate voice replied, "Not alone, doctor still works." The voice had a hollow, echoing quality that audio experts have confirmed cannot be replicated by living human vocal cords. None of our team members heard this response in real time. It was only discovered during review. As this EVP was being captured, the stainless steel drawer of the morgue refrigeration unit slowly opened by itself. The drawer weighs approximately 45 pounds and requires significant force to move. It opened at a steady, deliberate pace while our equipment recorded an 8-degree temperature drop directly in front of it. We've had this EVP analyzed by 3 independent audio specialists. All confirm that the voice contains frequency patterns that fall outside normal human speech. The voice's resonance pattern suggests it was speaking from what one expert described as an impossible acoustic space, as if the sound was coming from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. At 12:30, the lights in the morgue began to flicker in a distinct pattern. When analyzed by a former military communications officer, the pattern was identified as Morse code spelling out "help basement." This matches statements from former staff about cries for help coming from the lowest level of the hospital. We made our way to the former children's ward on the 4th floor, hoping to find answers to what was communicating with us. This wing closed in 1998 after the hospital downsized its pediatric services. Remains frozen in time. Colorful murals still adorn the walls, and abandoned toys lay scattered in playrooms. Within minutes of setting up our equipment, our audio recorders captured what sounds unmistakably like children laughing. The sounds came in short bursts, often followed by what resembles a hushing sound, as if someone was telling them to be quiet. No children have been allowed on this floor in over 25 years. The most compelling evidence came when we placed a fresh sheet of paper on a dusty table and asked if anyone wanted to communicate. Upon returning after 5 minutes, we discovered small handprints in the dust of a nearby window, handprints too small to belong to any adult. We had photographed this window upon arrival, and these prints were definitely not present before. If you pause the video at 14:17 and look carefully at the window at the end of the hall, you can see what appears to be a small shadow figure peering through the glass. It remains visible for approximately 4 seconds before disappearing. This happened on the 4th floor, where no one could possibly be standing outside the window. In one former patient room, we discovered a child's drawing tucked behind a radiator. The paper had yellowed with age, but the crayon drawing was clear: a tall, dark figure with elongated arms and red eyes standing next to stick-figure children. On the back, written in childish handwriting, were the words, "The doctor comes at night." Perhaps most unsettling was the pattern of cold spots we detected throughout the wall. Using thermal imaging, we mapped these cold areas and discovered they formed a perfect circle around what used to be the nurse's station, as if something was surrounding the very place where the children's caretakers would have been stationed. After collecting this extensive evidence, we consulted with several experts to help us understand what we were dealing with at St. Mary's Hospital. Dr. Eleanor Hammond, a parapsychologist with 30 years of experience investigating haunted locations, reviewed our findings with growing concern. "What you've captured here isn't a simple residual haunting," she explained. "The intelligent responses to your questions, the manipulation of physical objects, and the consistent pattern suggest something far more complex, possibly multiple entities under the influence of a dominant presence." We compared the original hospital blueprints with the actual building layout and discovered serious discrepancies. There are rooms in the basement level that don't appear on any official document. The hospital's unusual geometry creates intersections where corridors meet at precise 60-degree angles, forming a pattern that Dr. Hammond identified as potentially significant. Certain architectural designs can create what we call thin places, areas where the barrier between our world and whatever lies beyond becomes more permeable, she explained. Hospitals already exist at this intersection of life and death. This particular design amplifies that liminality. Our audio technician, James Chen, identified something unusual in our EV recordings. "There's a layering effect here," he noted. "When I separate the audio tracks, I can distinguish at least 7 distinct voices speaking in unison. This type of phenomena is extremely rare and indicates organized consciousness rather than random energy. The pattern of cold spots throughout the building appears to correlate exactly with reported death locations according to hospital records we obtained. When mapped, these points create a geometric pattern centered on the restricted basement area, suggesting this location is the focal point of the haunting. At 16:45 in our footage, You can see what appears to be luminous orbs moving in a distinct geometric pattern near the ceiling of the main corridor. These lights maintain perfect synchronization, moving too deliberately to be dust particles or insects. What could these lights signify? We believe they may represent souls trapped within the hospital's walls, unable to move on. The evidence all points to a disturbing conclusion. St. Mary's Hospital isn't just haunted, it's being controlled by something that has learned to manipulate the energy of those who died within its walls. As our investigation deepened, the phenomena became more personal and threatening. Mark, our camera operator who had remained skeptical throughout the investigation, refused to enter the basement level after what happened to him on the 3rd floor. While the rest of the team was setting up equipment in the former psychiatric ward, Mark stayed behind in the main corridor to monitor our static cameras. Alone in the dimly lit hallway, he experienced something that changed his entire perspective on the supernatural. I felt something touch the back of my neck. It wasn't like a brush, it was like fingers pressing deliberately. When I turned around, there was nothing there, but the air felt heavy, like someone was standing inches from my face. What makes Mark's experience compelling is that our night vision camera captured the entire incident. Though Mark appears alone in the frame at exactly 19:22, his hair and the collar of his shirt visibly move as if being touched by unseen hand. His genuine reaction of fear cannot be faked. The blood literally drains from his face as he backs away from something our cameras can't see. When analyzed in slow motion, a dark humanoid shadow can be seen moving across the wall behind him just before the touching occurred. This shadow doesn't correspond to any team member's position and moves independently of any light sources. Our thermal imaging camera, which had been recording simultaneously, shows an inexplicable cold spot in the shape of a human figure standing directly behind Mark, a cold spot that moves with purpose, following him as he backs away. The temperature difference between this figure and the surrounding air is nearly 20 degrees. Most disturbing of all, at 20:15 when Mark turns to run, the shadow figure seems to turn its head directly toward our camera. For 3 frames, what appears to be 2 glowing points of light like eyes are visible within the mass of darkness, as if whatever was there knew it was being recorded and wanted us to know it was watching. Despite Mark's experience, the remaining team members decided to proceed with our investigation of the restricted basement area. Hospital administration had been reluctant to grant us access to this level, citing ongoing renovation, but our research suggested this area hadn't been touched in decades. As we descended the narrow staircase, our equipment began malfunctioning in ways that defied explanation. The digital displays on our devices flickered between numbers and strange symbols. Our communication devices picked up fragments of conversations that weren't coming from any of our team members. The basement corridor stretched before us, lined with heavy metal doors labeled only with numbers. The air was noticeably thicker here, with an oppressive quality that made breathing difficult. Our MF detectors registered readings that were off the charts, consistently above 15 milligauss, far beyond what any normal electrical system should produce. When we reached the midpoint of the corridor, a heavy metal door behind us suddenly slammed shut with tremendous force. The sound echoed through the basement like a gunshot. We tried to reopen it, but the door wouldn't budge, effectively trapping us in the restricted area. Simultaneously, shadow figures began appearing at the periphery of our vision, darting between doorways, moving along the walls. These weren't the vague shapes we captured earlier, but fully formed humanoid silhouettes visible on multiple cameras. In one chilling moment, we counted 7 distinct figures visible simultaneously from different camera angles. At 23:17, Sarah, our lead investigator, felt something grab her arm with enough force to leave visible marks. The scratch marks that appeared on her skin formed a distinct pattern, 3 parallel lines that, according to historical records, match symbols found in the hospital's psychiatric files from the 1960s. The culmination of this terrifying sequence came when all of our cameras captured a full-bodied apparition at the end of the hallway. A tall figure wearing what appeared to be a doctor's coat, its face obscured by shadow. It remained stationary for approximately 12 seconds before suddenly rushing toward our team at impossible speed. The temperature dropped to near freezing as multiple voices screamed through our audio equipment, not in fear, but what sounded like rage. After escaping the basement level through an emergency exit, we took time to recover before analyzing what we'd experienced. But our investigation wasn't over. Historical research led us back to the hospital the following day, this time with a specific purpose to locate a rumored hidden room mentioned in the journals of a former maintenance worker. Following the clues from these journals, we discovered a section of wall in the basement that sounded hollow when tapped. Behind a false panel, we found a small room that had been sealed off decades ago. What we discovered inside was disturbing beyond words. The room contained antiquated medical equipment that hospital records indicate was officially disposed of in 1973. Restraint devices, modified surgical tools, and electrical equipment with no clear medical purpose filled the space. Most disturbing were the patient files stacked neatly on a metal desk files for procedures that were never officially documented. These records revealed that between 1967 and 1972, a Dr. Marcus Estelby conducted unauthorized experiments on psychiatric patients during the night shift. The experiments focused on what he called pain thresholds and proximity to death states. According to his notes, he believed these experiments could open doorways to other realms of consciousness. Perhaps most significant was our discovery that Dr. Selby died in a hospital fire at exactly 3:17 a.m. on March 17, 1973, explaining the consistent timing of the paranormal activity we experienced. The fire was contained to this hidden room in the adjacent corridor, yet somehow 17 patients on upper floors died of smoke inhalation that same night. On the walls of this room, we found symbols etched into the concrete, the same symbols that appeared in patients' drawings and were scratched into Sarah's arm at 25:37 in our footage. One of these symbols briefly glows with a blue luminescence when our camera passes over it, though this was invisible to the naked eye. This symbol has appeared at every significantly haunted location. We've investigated over the past year a connection we cannot dismiss as coincident. Historical research revealed the hospital was built on land once used for ancient religious rituals, suggesting Dr. Selby may have unknowingly tapped into energies that long predated the hospital's existence. The evidence we gathered at St. Mary's Hospital goes beyond anything we've documented in our years of paranormal investigation. What began as an examination of curious security footage revealed a complex and dangerous haunting that continues to affect anyone who encounters it. In the week following our investigation, team members began experiencing unusual phenomena in their homes. Objects moving without explanation, strange sounds at exactly 3:17 a.m. each night, electronics malfunctioning in the same patterns we witnessed at the hospital. Most concerning was what appeared on Mark's home security camera 3 nights after our investigation. At 3:17 a.m., his bedroom camera captured a tall, dark figure standing at the foot of his bed, equal to the apparition we encountered in the hospital basement. Mark has since relocated to another state, but reports the phenomena have followed him. The implications are disturbing. Whatever resides in St. Mary's Hospital can attach itself to those who investigate it, following them beyond the building's walls. It suggests an intelligence and capability far beyond typical haunting phenomena. If you look closely at all the hospital windows at 29:15 in our footage, you'll notice something chilling at exactly the same instant. Each window shows a shadowy figure watching our team as we exit the building. 17 windows, 17 watching figures, all perfectly synchronized. We've discovered that the security guard who recorded the original footage that brought us to St. Mary's was found dead in his apartment 1 week later. The official cause was listed as heart failure, but his roommate reported that in the days before his death, he kept seeing a doctor standing in the hallway outside his room at night. We're returning to St. Mary's Hospital next month. this time accompanied by a psychic medium who specializes in communication with dangerous entities. Our goal is not just to document the phenomena, but to understand what Dr. Selby unleashed and possibly to help release the souls trapped within the hospital's walls. Before we end this video, we must offer a warning. Multiple viewers of our previous investigations have reported experiencing unusual phenomena after watching, particularly those who watch at night. We don't fully understand the mechanism of this connection, but something about witnessing these events seems to create a temporary bridge between worlds. As our camera fades to black, listen carefully. The whisper you hear wasn't added in post-production. It was captured as we packed our final piece of equipment. The voice, which audio analysis confirms matches the frequency pattern of our previous EP, delivers a chilling message. You saw me too.